Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. My name is George, and in today's video we'll be talking about a brand that you might be familiar with because these guys have been in the whole micro brand business longer than well more established brands like Phoebus and Zelos. The brand that we're going to talk about today is called Nezumi Studios, and these guys were established in 2011, going live on Kickstarter with their first watch all the way back in 2015. So in a way, they've kind of set the tone for this whole micro brand trend that we all know today. And when they agreed to send a watch in for review, I was super excited because I love chronographs, and Nezumi Studios mostly does chronographs. They have a diver that again is another recent release, but that's a story for another video. Again, I'll put a link in the description box for you guys to check their website out. This is a 38mm chronograph and it's beautiful. It was lent in for the channel for review. I don't get to keep it. I have to send it back, so just bear that in mind as the video goes along. And this is an interesting piece because it's slightly different to what they normally do, the funky dials and the more kind of interesting choice of colors. But again, I've had it for a couple of weeks now. I have a link to the unboxing. Again, I'll put that in the corner of the screen for you guys to check it out. And now let's jump into the video and see the Tonnerre. I can't remember how many times I've said on the channel that I have a thing for chronographs. One of the things that I like the most is that you can play around with the dial a bit more. You can color the subdials differently, for instance. I think overall you have a lot more room to customize the dial to give it its own kind of identity. I think in a way this has been Nezumi's party piece. If you take a look on their website, all the chronographs have all these vintage racing inspired color combinations that really draw your attention to the dial and really make it stand out. I personally think that they owned and claimed that style really well. The Tonnerre is, like I mentioned, their most recent release, and this still has some Nezumi style left, but it's slightly toned down a bit. For starters, all Nezumi watches prior to this were 40mm in diameter. This has a 38mm case, so it's slightly smaller, but has a slightly larger feel and look on the wrist, but in a good way. I've had 38mm watches that look way smaller than this, so bonus points here. The lug to lug is 46mm, so it sits nice and compact on the wrist. Lug width of 20mm, so you shouldn't have any problems finding straps that match. Thickness of 12mm with that slightly domed sapphire crystal. A weight of 59 grams. This thing is light. This is one of the benefits of using a quartz movement. You keep the thickness and also the weight down. The case is all 316L stainless steel and it has an all brushed finish and it's done really well. It suits the design quite well and there's no need to get into many details here. They opted for the safe route and I quite actually like that. Just stick to one thing and do that right. This being a chronograph, we have the chronograph pushers at the 1 and 4, done in the same elegant soft brush finish, and at the 3 we have the signed crown with the Nezumi logo. The crown is just push-pull and it is, in my opinion, the perfect size for the case. This being a quartz, I don't believe that the grippiness of the crown matters that much because you don't need to fiddle that much with it. You just set the time once and that is it. One thing to note here is that this has just 50 meters of water resistance between the crown and the screw down case back. Normally I would say here that an additional 50 meters on the water resistance would be ideal, which would be, but I just don't think it needs it. This doesn't look like the type of watch that you take to the pool or to the beach or any of that. So another 50 meters wouldn't do it any good because it just doesn't act like it needs it. Let's move on to the dial now. This is where Nezumi shines with their color combinations. This particular one is reference number TK1202. This dial variant is the dark blue and off-white, and I want to say that out of all the 4 dial color combinations, I believe this one stays in tune with the Nezumi styling. We have syringe style hour and minute hands, and we have this marine blue chrono hand with a white tip. The chrono hand color matches the subdials, which is a nice touch, but I feel that this blue on another shade of blue kind of gets lost a bit along the way. Towards the outer edge of the dial, we have the tachymeter, also in off-white. They managed to fit all this in a 38mm case, which is quite impressive without making the dial look really cramped. The subdial at the 3 is the 24-hour indicator, and it's half blue, half off-white, and the subdial at the 9 is the 60-minute counter for the chronograph. This is also a combination of blue and off-white. This mixture of colors on the 2 subdials is purely for aesthetic purposes, I believe, but in a way I think, again, this is where Nezumi puts their stamp on the dial. The lume is pretty decent for what it is. C3 on the hour and minute hands, and on the tip of the chrono hand, also lume dots under the hour markers. This will do the job, but the thing is, I really don't mind if it doesn't. It's not meant to. Sure, bonus points if it is, but I really believe that it's not on the identity of the watch. The one criticism I would have on this dial is that sometimes, depending on how the light hits it, it's not the most legible. There is AR on the underside of that domed sapphire crystal, but those silver indices just get a bit lost depending on the angle of the case, depending on how the light hits it. But again, it's not a big criticism, it's something small, but it's just something to keep in mind. The movement powering this is the Seiko meca-quartz VK63, has an accuracy of plus to minus 20 seconds per month. This is a great movement, typically featured in watches at this price point. This movement has the mechanical feel when operating the pushers, and the chrono hand snaps back when resetting, and it also has that smooth sweep when operating it. Honestly, I don't have a preference. In my previous video, I reviewed a chronograph with a similar price that was using a Miyota movement. Again, I love chronographs, but I don't particularly use that function as much. So for me, it's not a deciding factor. I just think that it contributes in a way to the vintage feel that Nezumi is trying to kind of touch on here. Finally, we get to the strap. I opted for the brown vegetable leather one, but there is also a black version, which is also made out of vegetable leather. The strap is super comfortable and a good balance between soft and stiffness. 20mm lug width, and it tapers down to 17.5. Cross stitching at the top with the Nezumi logo on the stainless steel buckle, and the way that logo sticks out on the buckle is kind of interesting, giving it a bit of a vintage vibe, vintage feel. Again, it's a super comfortable strap, it suits the style of the watch, and it's just done really well. And to sum it up, guys, the Tonnerre is a great offering from Nezumi. You might not see it, but it still has the Nezumi pedigree, I believe. The thing I like the most is that you don't feel that it needs anything else like better lume or higher water resistance like I was mentioning, because it shows that you could just simply do without those two things, because the watch just works really well and you don't expect much more in that sense. Let me know in the comment section below, guys, what you think about the Tonnerre, and also let me know in the comment section below, if you make it so far in the video, what is your favorite watch from the Nezumi lineup. Thank you very much for watching again, guys. Please click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so hit that bell icon if you don't want to miss a video. I will see you guys again, and thanks again. Bye.